Tonight's tactical enhancement is a rum old-fashioned. Tonight we're playing Black Seas. It's a 400-point game, but we're doing a scenario which is a pitch battle designed for 2,000 points because this is only the third game we've ever had and we're still figuring out what the bloody hell we are doing. I think in the last game we fucked up a few things rather badly. We're going to try and get the rules right this time. Yes, we play too many game systems, so we haven't had as many shots at this as we could. But we've got on each fleet we've got 3 brigs, 1 frigate. It's a 5th rate. That's enough to practice our skills. And I'll just give you a quick shot of Andrew's ships. And because I've really only done 2 sort of unboxing type videos on this game so far, so if you're a Black Seas aficionado watching this and wondering who the hell is this guy, usually we're doing battle reports and assorted other games, but we're doing a hard push on this now because this is a beautiful little game that we want to have a crack at. So you get to see us being noobs. We've only been gaming for like, I don't know, what, 3.5 decades? And yeah. So, yes. Yeah,
3 decades now.
3 decades and 3 games of this. So we'll see how much our grown-ad status helps us figure out what the bloody hell we're doing and try and do shit intelligently. On that note, we have deployed. We're doing the scenario 12 pitched battle. We've only done scenario 1 and 2 before. And basically you set up on either side. You can set up in line, which is interesting. So in theory, you can conga line your way forward as your battle formation. So I thought I'd try that a little bit because the wind is coming from the long ends of the table. So with any luck, I won't inadvertently collide into my own fucking ships with the wind coming from the side. We'll see how that goes. It's a bit of an experiment, but it can be a problem because basically in this game, if you haven't read the rules, the activation of ships is strictly in order of which one is closest to where the wind is coming from, which is that way. And on that note, we'll roll a dice and... Geez, we actually don't really determine who goes first, do we?
No, it doesn't say.
No, you don't, because we'll work out who goes first by where the ships are deployed. Well, that's nice and simple.
Yeah.
What we might do is check in at the end of the turn and explain what the bloody hell just happened. Right, turn 1, and we're really just trying to get some positioning. I seem to have the wind advantage, these chaps being closer to the wind, so they went first. Now these ones here are manoeuvring. Theoretically, they're going to try and get between these 2 lines of ship, so they could use broadside on both sides. But what I'm doing is manoeuvring my guys here more in the direction of where the wind is coming from, which by the time we clash might start to have some influence. We're very new at this, so we don't have a real feel for it yet. And we're sort of finding out what's likely to work by theory rather than any actual experience of what's going to happen.
Pretty much.
Right, and then those chaps are closing over there. So we'll move into turn 2 and check in after that. Right, it's the end of turn 2. All the ships have moved and most of them have fired. This guy's too far from the action. This guy did get into the action, which was a bit of a surprise. I didn't expect that. But because of the direction of the wind, the sequence of events was this guy and this guy moved up sequentially and fired upon actually this ship was further away, but that's where, because the actual arc of fire is very limited for the broadsides, that was the one that was actually in line of fire. So we hocked 4 dice at that one, and I think one of them hit. We did 2 points of damage.
2 points.
Yep, nothing critical. Then these ships moved. They did some firing. Didn't do a lot. I think, did you get a couple of points on that guy? Actually, no, you got 4 points off of that guy.
4 points off that guy, yeah.
So that was a double hit. This chap came along. Don't know if he hit anything.
I think you completely missed.
Yeah, now these two, I got one of these in position for point blank. Totally fucking missed. And this one is not in point blank, but as you can see, it's raking fires down the length of the ship. Unfortunately, that one also fucking missed. Then this bastard snuck up. Didn't quite get raking fire in the closest target, but he, out of 3 dice needing 2 or less, he rolled 2 ones. One's a critical, and managed to take out some crew, which means they can't do any orders this turn, and did something to the quarterdeck, which...
Quarterdeck, that's where all the officers are, isn't it?
Yes, the nerve centre of the ship, I believe it says
the
in the
bridge,
rulebook.
basically the bridge. Yeah.
Yes, which fucks it up, and of course I've turned into the bloody wind, which was my mistake. I'm still getting used to this wind business. Sounds very landlubberish, really, doesn't it?
I've got this terminology right now.
Oh my god almighty. Thinking that I read the rules a bit wrong as to just how bad that is, because I thought you drop back to light sails, but actually you move your whatever sails you're on, which is battle sails, then you drop back to anchored.
To stop, yeah.
Stop, yeah. And the only way out of it is to tack, but I can't tack because I can't do orders because of the damage that I took. So I'm rather hoping that next turn we get some sort of rubber band effect on the dice. But turning into wind was my own dumb fault that I got greedy wanting to get that raking fire shot. And not only did I miss, but I positioned my ship to take damage as a result of bad maneuvering. So that's the state of play. It looks impressive. I mean, look at all that fucking fire going into that brig. Only it's the smoke going into the brig and the balls are going elsewhere.
It is a tiny little ship you're trying to hit, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, so look, if you're from South Australia, this is a brig. It's so small, it's not even rated. And the ship they sent to colonise Adelaide was a brig. They had a model of one somewhere. It used to be a restaurant. And that's it. That was the grand total of Britain's, the British Empire's...
Makes us feel so small, doesn't it? So insignificant.
We
they sent us was a brig.
We didn't get a 12-ship fleet. We got one fucking brig. That's what we're worth. Anyway, we'll move into turn 3 now and figure out how do we unpickle ourselves from this situation. Okay, we have been having some funny games. First thing that happened was this ship here sailed around and took a shot at one of the English brigs. Didn't do a lot, did it?
Nah, I think you need 1s and 2s to hit.
Yeah. Then this one sailed up and took a medium range shot at a brig, which has since moved. But this is the brig, and 2 guns that missed, but the light gun hit and caused a fire, which Andrew's crew completely failed to put out in their own activation, so that thing is burning. This one, which had taken the damage last turn, went and sailed directly into the wind and is now anchored. It's taken a bit of extra damage in the process. That's not great, and of course it can't turn, so it can't shoot. Then the burning ship actually moved up and did get a round or 2 off, actually on this ship. It's taken quite a bit of damage. Then Andrew sailed this ship. Now we actually gave this ship some damage. I think it must have been when this one went past it. It fired on this ship. Didn't do a lot to it, but it caused a critical hit to the rudder. But before the critical hit to the rudder took effect, it sailed right past this ship, failed its skill roll, caught fire. It would have been a collision, and after we misjudged the dice roll and worked out just how much damage they would take, collisions in this are lethal. It dodged the collision, but it did catch fire. Now this ship is burning as well. It did put a couple of rounds over on this one. I can't remember if it did any damage. No, it did actually. The ship is fucked.
I think it's almost crippled, isn't it?
Yes, it's 1 point off of crippled. It's not having the best day of it. Then this ship moved up, but couldn't quite get a clear shot on this one, and couldn't get a roll to hit at all. And then this brig over here took a long range shot at this one, and we think pegged some seagulls off of a rock or something with a 00. So that was that, an eventful turn. I've not been doing a lot of actual damage with gunnery, but what hits I am making are tending to be criticals. And Andrew's done as much damage to himself as I have, what with setting his own ships on fire.
Yep, don't sail your ship next to another ship on fire within 1 inch, apparently.
Yeah, so we are getting some serious lessons in figuring out where the next ships are going to move, so you don't position yourself for a collision or for getting a cascading fire.
It was too tempting though to get that point blank shot with the ship on fire though.
Yeah, look, we are so used. I mean, you did the same thing I did. I moved into an inadvantageous position and damaged my own ship by sailing into the wind in order to get that crack shot.
Yeah.
And if I'd hit, it would have been spectacular, but of course I naturally missed. Then you went and did the same damn thing.
I think it was worthwhile in the end, because I might just put that fire out next turn, hopefully.
Yeah, well, you certainly won't be taking the risk of rolling a 1, so these ships are both going to be on orders where they don't shoot.
Yeah, or turn, or change sails, or basically do everything except try and put the fucking fire out.
Yeah, the funny thing with the rudder is we realised that depending on what score the rudder was, if he'd been fixed and going straight ahead, he would have crashed into that rock next turn. So this is turning into a exercise in simple rules with complex consequences. I must admit I'm quite enjoying, if only it's because Andrew's shit is on fire. Right, so whatever turn we're in, was that turn 3 or 4? Oh, we don't even know.
I don't know.
What we're finding is that we need to learn how to sail. I'm getting a bit lucky with my line, but it did occur to me that the ships at the back of this line are going to move before the ships at the front of the line. So if you're going to sail your ships in line with the wind to your back, you've really got to space it out. Maybe, stagger your line or something. Andrew has avoided any collisions this turn, but most of those avoidances were by an inch or less. B's dick, I think, was the term thrown around.
Thankfully I put the fire out, because if I didn't, that other ship would have just sailed right in front of him, and then he would have fucking caught fire.
That's true, yeah. That ship had not put its fire out, and Andrew used the order to put the fire out, and it needed it, in fact, to get the successful roll. If you hadn't done, that ship would have been forced to sail past it while it was on fire, and it would have caught the fire itself. This ship over here did use the order and still failed to put out the fire, and took how many points?
2.
2, lovely. So Andrew's going to do some re-manoeuvring, because he's not really in the best position at the moment to tackle my fleet, which is more arse than class on my part, because neither of us know what we're doing. Yes, now I did manage to get out of the wind this turn, so he can go up to battle sails and escape before he's crippled. And I'm going to try and get this line in behind these guys to start causing some damage before they either take off or reconfigure themselves. On that note, let's give it a crack. Having successfully relocated all of our stuff to the opposite sides of the table from what we were previously on, my ship's moving around in a vaguely useful line, but only one of them could get range on this guy. And we only got 1 hit, but it did a critical and stuffed up the rudder, so he's going to move in a straight line next turn, which is good because everyone else is going to move out of the way, so he's the only one I'm going to shoot at with basically 3 of my ships at long range. This one won't get a shot, he's too far away. This one finally put his fire out. He's going to go off the table because he had to go in a straight line to put the fire out, and he's got no choice in that. These two have come around in a circle, and look, with enough turns, we would come around and re-engage around about here, across our fleets again. As it is, we really only have one viable target, and I'm not sure what Andrew will do back to me. He might be able to get some shots. Right, well, we're having to stop the game because it's getting late and it's a school night. It turned out the 2 of the 3 ships that I thought were going to get rounds on one of Andrew's ships couldn't do. It's since sailed all the way over there because it had to go in a straight line and couldn't turn.
Fucking because of that one.
Yeah, so no, that ship over there will return later. These ships will scoot around the edge of the map Whereas these ships, well, this one's probably just going to stay right on the outskirts because it's 1 point off crippled. But these ships will try to stay upwind and turn to be upwind of these guys as these guys make their turns this way. That's a nice theory, and it's probably good for about a turn, and then we'll see what happens after that. I think our fleets will probably cross over again, and Andrew will probably want to be trying to get upwind again. Now we have to stop. I can see how we'd probably destroy a couple of brigs in the next crossing because there's a bit of damage each way. But we have to stop, and it's going to be a tie because nobody's crippled any ships. Most of our shooting was at long range, and when we did get up close and personal, most of our dice rolls are pretty ratchet.
I got one good close range shot for the whole game.
See, I got
That was it.
I got 1 point blank and 1 raking fire at close range, not point blank but at close range, which should have screwed up a brig 6 ways from Sunday, but unfortunately it just rolled really badly. I got no hits out of 4, which should have got like 2 hits easily.
6s or less is a hit. No 5s. No 6s.
6s, yeah. So I should have got 2 or 3 hits, and 1 or 2 of those would have been raking fire. But alas, was not to be. And of course you hit a point blank, and it's double damage too. I did get quite a few criticals actually as the game progressed.
Yeah. 1 every turn.
Yep, I set 1 fire, then you set fire to your own ship.
Then 2 rudder hits.
2 rudder hits, yep.
And then I did 2 criticals to 1 of your brigs.
Yes, in the same turn, which got 1 point off crippled. Well, between that and having turned into the wind previously, and then not being able to use orders because of the critical.
Yeah, so that's a ship that got broadsided at point blank range by another brig.
Yes, so that was a successful venture. We did a few things right, like the manoeuvring I did in order to get horrific gunfire into one of your brigs, I did right, but the dice didn't agree. Moving upwind, I think, was a great thing to do. That worked reasonably well, except again, I was doing long range shots, which just there's not enough guns on these ships for long range shots to achieve a lot. So I think, I'm not quite sure how to play these fellas yet. I think when I was doing long range shots, I avoided the shenanigans that Andrew got himself into, but I didn't have a lot of really good shots either. I don't know, Andrew, what have we learned?
Quite a lot of things. So probably the main point I've taken from this game so far is that everything keeps moving, whether you want it to or not. And it's very easy to collide with other ships, collide with islands, or just get yourself out of fire arc. So you not only have to take that into account for your own ships, so that you don't crash into your own other ships, but you have to take into account that the enemy's always going to be moving as well.
Yes.
So we're used to land battles, which can be very static. So this is a completely different concept.
Yeah, in fact, in land battles, half the time you're doing a dice roll just to move because there's shit in the way.
Yeah. Whereas with this, since you're constantly moving, you got to get into the mindset that next turn, the battlefield's going to look completely different. Having said that, all the ships move at a constant speed.
Yes.
So you can measure out where the enemy ship will most likely be.
That's right. I don't think there's any rules against measuring because everything's sort of going at a stately pace.
Yeah.
And you can just picture a captain on his ship with his map out and his pencil or whatever it is they use back
Well,
then.
you'd think they'd be a pretty good judge of judging distances and stuff after being on on a boat for 20 years. So they'd probably be really good at it.
And they would have. I don't know if they had watches back then, but they would certainly have mechanisms of measuring. If we're going this many knots, then we'll be moving that many hundreds of yards before we have to turn.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's quite scientific by this period because we're effectively doing Napoleonic era. And you start to get into that mindset of right, what do I have to do next if I'm going to start bringing that around? If we're doing an evening game, we're usually a little bit rushed. So there's not as much thinking going into it as what there would be if we had more leisure time. But this really is a game that rewards thinking a few turns in advance.
Oh, it's definitely chess on water, isn't it?
Mm.
I think it's a really interesting game.
And simple rules with complex consequences. I like it.
Fire is just absolutely deadly to ships.
Oh god, yeah, that's horrific.
And once we start using third rates, I think we'll start to see what these ships can really do.
That's right. I mean, I've assembled all the starter box ones just as generic ships. I put Spanish flags on them, but I could just as easily use them as Americans. I haven't painted them in any particular colours. But I've also got the Spanish box set and the big unwieldy thing, which will be a nightmare to try and actually sail.
Just point out the enemy and just
just soak up whatever comes along. I guess
we can take it.
Yeah, so that'll be a lot of fun as we start expanding our fleets. I've still got to rig up another 2 frigates and a couple more brigs when it comes in the box.
Yeah, I stopped at 3 brigs because they're just fucking annoying, and I can't see myself using more than 3 brigs anyway.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
I mean, they're just little gunboats, really, aren't they?
Well, they are, but who gives a shit if they get sunk? And they are harder to hit. So I could actually imagine them being really useful to harass the enemy and get in amongst it.
Yeah, they're good at orbiting the battlefield and just blowing off heavy cannon rounds, but...
Well, that's true. As soon as they actually get into the thick of it, they're probably not going to last very long.
With only 20 hit points, and they're crippled after 13, which, let's face it, a good broadside by a decent frigate, and it'll be crippled.
That's an interesting thought, because I thought they'd be interesting to get in amongst it, duck and dodge, and be harder to hit, soak up rounds, but yeah, they just won't last. So you probably do want them at a distance where they get hit on a 1 or a 2,
or just plinking off third rates, because it's a +1 hit with our larger ships. So three brigs will just orbit a third rate and just slowly wear it down.
Interesting point, that.
Because I did do a play test where I took a third rate and I took 3 brigs, and the brigs won.
Really?
It took me like 7 turns, but eventually they killed it.
Because this frigate here is actually a 5th rate.
Yes, they're the tiniest of the frigates,
Yeah. So, okay, that's interesting. I wouldn't have thought that a 3 brigs would actually do that well, I guess.
Well, they're firing 6 heavy cannon per turn, and you just, every now and again, you roll a 1, and suddenly the big ship can't turn, or it can't shoot back because you've hit its gun decks, or it's caught on fire, so it has to spend a turn putting it just sort of rolls along.
That does suggest that you do need a mixture of big and small ships to really make this work.
I think so. 1 third rate is good for your capital ship.
Yep.
And some brigs, maybe a couple of 5th rates. I reckon that'd be a fucking awesome play.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll be getting into that in due course. It's worth noting in Hobbyland, we've got 6 game systems we're playing.
Keeping up with all the rules is becoming interesting.
Yeah, becoming expert in any one game spread across that many systems is a little tricky, but we do enjoy a bit of variety. Check out the channel. You'll see games for lots of Warhammer, of course, or the old-fashioned square-based one. Fair bit of Flames of War, Team Yankee version.
Team Yankee, yeah. Always a great game.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun with that.
Especially with the new releases coming out.
Oh yeah.
Soviet Airborne and Americans running around in jeeps and
tacticals. Then we've got some World War II action, another Warlord Games game for that. That's the which one is that?
Bold Action? Is it Bold Action?
Victory at Sea that we're playing.
Oh, Victory at Sea, right? Yeah,
we're doing Victory at Sea. They also got Cruel Seas. So many seas games for seas. Just getting into Napoleonics as well with Black Powder. And oh my god, have I accrued an awful lot of plastic. So we got into this game a little while ago before actually we got into Napoleonics, but life gets in the way, and we're now finally playing it properly and figuring out what the fucking hell we're doing. Anyway, on that note, thanks for watching. Feel free to hit like, subscribe, check out the other videos, and time for us to call it a night.